It seems a lifetime ago, but remember the early days of the pandemic last year? Back then, the overriding concern about the virus was that it predominantly attacked older people. But with the Delta strain running rampant and vaccination rates still low, it's now the under 40s who are suffering. In the current hotspots of New South Wales and Queensland, they make up the majority of new COVID infections, and it includes a frightening number of school children, which is particularly alarming for researchers who predict the young ones could be scarred from this for decades to come. For so long during this pandemic, perhaps the only source of comfort has been thinking at least young people would escape the worst of it.
It's as if children have some sort of superpower to fend off this virus.
But not anymore.
This superpower that children seem to have seems to have waned somewhat.
Delta has turned this on its head.
The virus has clearly changed. They may well develop symptoms now and may well be able to spread the virus.
Dr. John Gerard has seen dozens of COVID-positive kids come through the doors in the last week here at Gold Coast University Hospital. Behind not one, but two barriers, room after room, now home to infected children and their parents. Among them are 7-year-old Zen and his mum, Sandra.
Very cute.
Hey Zen, buddy, how are you feeling?
Well, just a little bit sick, a little snotty nose. If I didn't have my test, I would have just thought it was a cold.
Is it scary being in hospital?
Well, it's the safest place to be, and the nurses would always know what to do.
It's not too bad at this point, but Zen has asthma, so we are quite concerned and we were happy to actually be brought into hospital.
As a mum, when you hear your son's got it, what's the first thing you think of?
I think I was shocked at first. I never thought it was going to happen to us. We took every precaution we could. Queensland seemed to be one of the safest places around. So when this happened, it was just out of the blue for us. I was almost convinced that it was a prank call that I was getting from the health department.
But catching COVID, even without severe symptoms, is no joke. Sandra and Zen will spend at least 2 weeks isolated in this small hospital room. On Thursday, hosting a party for Zen's birthday. Happy birthday, mate. Well, what did you do for your birthday?
Well, not much, because we're stuck in like a tiny room. We can't really do much, but we got heaps of presents.
Did you ever think someone as young as Zen would wind up in hospital with COVID?
I know kids can get sick. It just didn't feel like it was coming for us.
And the shock didn't end there. Even though Sandra is fully vaccinated, she has now tested positive as well.
But I don't have any symptoms yet. Just a mild stuffy nose, but it's nothing major.
What do you miss being stuck in hospital?
My dad. Well, I really miss him.
Hopefully you can give him a hug soon, buddy. Is Mum good at hugs?
Yes.
That's the best hug ever then.
Do you have a message for other parents in Australia?
Just do the right thing. Stay safe. Make sure when you hear that there's concern and there are health directions, just listen to them. This is serious and we're still not clear. Even if right now we don't have any symptoms, that could turn at any point. So we're just hoping for the best, but this could turn really bad as well.
It must be worrying to see all of a sudden things change like this and kids now are in the crosshairs.
I guess most of us are probably a little bit surprised by the swing towards children and the fact that we're having these outbreaks in schools right across Australia.
Dr. Gerard says the highly contagious Delta variant is to blame for landing kids in hospital.
probably all of them are here, mostly for isolation purposes and also for observation of their parents, rather than because the children themselves are seriously ill. I see the fact that this disease is now being seen in children as an indicator that this virus is becoming more virulent across all ages.
In the latest Sydney outbreak, nearly 1,000 children have been infected. Just this last week, 4 teens were in intensive care, one of them on a ventilator. And in Queensland, it's a similar story. The majority of cases there are in patients under the age of 40. It's a devastating reminder that children aren't protected from this virus. In fact, in Australia right now, they're at greater risk than ever before. What's that moment like that you find out you have got COVID-19?
It was shocking. I felt like I was in a movie. It didn't feel real at all.
What Sydney-sider Emily Troyan went through is evidence that young people now have targets on their backs. The 25-year-old caught the virus at a suburban pizza shop back in June. At that stage, like all of us, she had no idea COVID was once again on the loose in the community.
I started to experience really intense just feelings of like heat and pain in my body that then turned into just consistent vomiting and nausea. It was generally, the worst I've ever felt. I've had influenza A before and I thought that was bad, and this was that plus some more, and
When you talk to your friends, is there a sense that it's your generation that's now going to bear the brunt of this for the next 6 months?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's quite a scary thing for people, especially young people.
The scariest part of having COVID is not knowing how bad it'll get, and perhaps worse still, how long its effects will last. Not just on your body, but as researchers overseas are discovering, also on your intelligence. It sounds like you found that if you get COVID, it's a fair chance your IQ will drop as a result.
It's a worrying picture that's emerging.
At 18, Jack Edge should have the world at his feet. But instead, he has walking sticks in his hands as he continues to battle the debilitating effects of COVID-19.
I deteriorated really fast, and I was put into ICU on the ventilator, which is where I was for 11 days on the ventilator, 12 days in ICU in total.
Was there a moment you thought you might never see your family again?
Yeah, 100%. No doubt about it.
The previously perfectly healthy young Irishman is proof that age is no barrier to this beast of a virus. Within 24 hours of arriving at hospital, doctors were preparing his mum Jen for the worst.
She just said, Jen, Jack is very unwell. He can't sustain the oxygen he's on at the moment, and we've been on to ICU, and we're going to have to transfer him into ICU. And we wouldn't be surprised by tonight if he's on a ventilator. So my world just came crashing down, as it would. We were told to keep our phones on like 24 hours, so that was really hard. Yeah. That was heartbreaking.
When did you finally get some good news?
Kind of 48 hours after. And they were able to talk about taking him off the ventilator. When he did come off, it was like, wow. It was like winning the lotto. And I've never won the lotto, but it was just the most amazing experience, you know, because when he was sick, I mean, I had a pain in my stomach that I just hope I never feel again, you know. It was horrendous.
More than a year on from his infection, Jack still has a long way to go in his recovery. What's it like when a fit, strong young man like yourself figures out that you have to learn how to walk again?
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. They picked me up and they kind of just dragged me around and kind of held on to me as I kind of walked out down the high dependency hallway.
What's the day-to-day reality for you now?
You know, mobility issues due to the nerve damage in my feet, not being able to feel certain parts of my feet for well over a year now, medication, a lot of mental health issues regarding traumatic experiences, PTSD. There's no guarantee that I'll even get my full mobility back at all, which is obviously very difficult to hear.
Just as difficult to hear is the impact of COVID-19 on brain power.
I feel like I may be sleepwalking into a trap here.
For Dr. Adam Hampshire, testing intelligence is not just a game. It's also the purpose of his research.
Oh, that's just mean. That's mean.
His team at Imperial College London is investigating what the virus does to your IQ, and the findings paint a bleak picture.
And I'm going to take the bishop with my queen.
What we found essentially was that people who'd had COVID-19 were performing less well than we would expect on measures of cognitive ability or intelligence.
With those that had suffered more severe COVID, I mean, just how much are we talking IQ-wise that they lost?
The degree to which people who were at the more severe end of the illness spectrum underperformed was the equivalent of around about 7 IQ points.
It's an outcome Australian teenagers in their final year of high school certainly want to avoid. Malika Azimi lives in a Sydney hotspot, and Sarah Ratnasar is isolating in her Brisbane bedroom after another student at her school tested positive. Both have been forced into home learning in the lead up to the most important exams of their lives. Like so many kids across the country, they feel overwhelmed.
It's been pretty difficult, I'm not gonna lie. So it's been like 3 or 4 weeks that we've been in lockdown, and it's very difficult to be able to show up every day online and be able to push through with this whole thing, doing this online learning thing, and it's very hard to access our teachers, and it's just not a learning environment.
I imagine it's a bit of a double-edged sword for you, because part of you would want to be back at school studying with your teachers there to help, but also on the other side you'd be worried about the danger of infection once you're back in the classroom.
Yeah, it is a really big issue, especially with Delta. I have a younger brother who's very little, and I'd be very concerned for his health, my health, and obviously my parents' health.
This Delta variant, of course, is much more contagious. Maybe not quite as contagious as chickenpox, but approaching that degree of contagiousness. And what that means is there really is no prospect of eliminating this virus from the globe. And almost everybody ultimately will acquire this virus, will become infected if they are not vaccinated.
In Queensland, COVID testing is in overdrive after the Delta variant raged through schools. Dr. John Gerard is already caring for dozens of children and their parents at the Gold Coast University Hospital, and he's preparing for many more.
It's the younger age groups that will be vaccinated last because they are at lowest risk of getting severe disease. So that's not unreasonable, but unfortunately that means the virus will spread in those age groups. Even if we are able to vaccinate 80% of the adult population, which will be difficult, that still represents many millions of unvaccinated Australians, and we will see a pandemic of unvaccinated Australians over the next 12 months. There is no doubt. There is no doubt.
Hello, I'm Tom Steinfort. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au, as well as the 9Now app.